It's 7 o'clock now on Tuesday, August 18th. Uh, this is a meeting of the Planning and Economic Development Committee being held via teleconference. Um, as chairman of the Planning and Economic Development Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, and subsequent extensions, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which is authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone, with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. To access Zoom, please refer to the agenda or the city's website for the meeting link. The public may also view this meeting via channel 16. B, that we're providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting through public postings. Instructions have also been provided on the city's website, www.nashuanh.gov, and publicly noticed at City Hall in the Nashua Public Library. C, that we're providing a mechanism for the public to alert the body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has problems accessing the meeting or phone via phone or channel 16, please call 603-821-2049 and they will help you connect. D, that we're adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event that the public is unable to access the meeting via the methods outlined above, the meeting will be adjourned, rescheduled, and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during tonight's meeting shall be done by roll call. We'll start the meeting by taking roll call attendance. During the meeting, when each member does, they must state their presence. Also, whether there's anyone else in the room during the meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Alderman Laws, if you could please take the roll.
Thank you, Chairman. Alderman Tenza.
I'm here. I can hear everybody, and I'm abiding by the stay-at-home orders.
Alderman Jane Schmidt.
I am present. I can hear everyone, and I am alone tonight.
Alderman Tom Lopez. Alderman at Large Brandon Laws. I'm here. I can hear everyone, and I am alone. And Alderman at Large Ben Clemens is not here tonight. I don't know where Tom is. Also in attendance, Tim Cummings, Director of Economic Development.
Thank you. Also in attendance are President Laurie Wilshire and Alderman Cleaver are here with us tonight. The first item on the agenda is public comment. I don't see that anyone from the public is joined us tonight, but maybe later on, if someone does, we can allow for public comment. So, Mr. Clerk, I'll turn it back over to you for the communications.
Communication from Tim Cummings, Economic Development Director. Contract amendment for professional engineering services related to Nashua downtown project VHB. Mr. Chair, I move to accept, place on file, and approve the contract amended with VHB Incorporated for professional engineering services for the Nashua Downtown and Riverfront Implementation Project in of $500,000 by roll call.
All right, thank you, Alderman Laws. Mr. Cummings, Director Cummings, can I ask, does it make sense to take these up at the same time, both communications?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And so I guess we'll for the purposes of the hearing, we will take them up one at a time. But if you could present to us on both items at the same time, that'd be great.
Happy to.
And so, Director Cummings, I will turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Tim Cummings, Director of Economic Development. Thank you for having me this evening. I'm before you because there's two communications, and as the chair just mentioned, they are tied together. They're the same project, two separate contracts. And
it- Sorry.
no, no worries. So essentially, Mr. Chair, what we have is, and as some of you may know, we've started designing the riverfront continuation of the Riverwalk that was started back in, in earnest back in 2003. I believe the original TIF was started, and then somewhere between 2003 and 2007, you had the first phase where we built out a boardwalk along Peddler's Daughter, and then continuing it on back east towards Hudson. And so with bringing on the Lofts 34, we expanded the TIF and looking to basically use the proceeds from the Lofts 34 development, the tax revenue, to finish the boardwalk that we started once a while back. So it is scoped out to be about a $15 million project in and of itself. When it's entirely done, it follows the master plan that was done back in 2015, 2016 timeframe. It is design services. The contract is for continuation of what we started, which we completed the concept phase, which we did a joint meeting of the infrastructure and PEDC a couple months back now to do a preview of that phase of the project. Now we need to enter into preliminary design. That's essentially the middle design portion. Then we'll have final design. And that will be another contract, which I'm hoping to get before this body sometime in mid to late fall, all with the goal of trying to get under construction for next spring. So what you have is a $500,000 contract, though it's not necessarily using $500,000 of new monies. There was monies left over from the concept plan phase, which we will be rolling over into this phase as well. All of the funding is being paid for through the TIF, and the funds are available. I'll leave my comments there, Mr. Chairman, on that particular contract. All I will continue on with on the second contract with Hannah Swanson. They were originally a subcontractor to VHB. During the concept phase, it was decided to have them contract directly with the city for a few reasons. One, to help with project management. Two, they are surveyors. They're going to continue doing their survey work. But ultimately, what we foresee them playing a big role in is contract administration. As you may or may not know, John Vancor provided the similar type of service for the Broad Street Parkway, where he basically was the consultant or project manager for the city of Nashua for that project during the construction. We'd be looking for him to play a similar type role when the time comes for this project. So this secondary contract that I just referenced is all keeping into the spirit of what I just described. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Cummings. Any questions regarding either contract? Questions on clarification? Okay. Tim, did you want to say something else?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly touch upon process because I don't want this to get lost. So typically these types of contracts have never been referred to committee. I understand we referred them to committee this time around, and I'm happy to be here. I just want to make sure, particularly for newer members of the Board of Aldermen, know that the typical process, so we have a TIF advisory committee, and then the way the TIF was set up is actually that once it gets recommended to the full Board of Aldermen, then it's the full Board of Aldermen that has to adopt the contract. So I just wanted to clarify that as the rationale for why the document was originally sent to the Board of Aldermen with no type of referral, because that's been our past practice, and that's actually set out in ordinance when we set up the TIF originally back in 2003. So thank you. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you for that clarification. So I'm not sure moving forward what President Wilshire will will require, but we appreciate you being here tonight to explain it to us and give any member who uh, wanted to ask questions about this contract an opportunity to do so. So we appreciate it. Questions or comments by members of the committee or anyone in attendance? Okay, seeing none, then I'll ask the clerk please to call the roll first on the first communication.
Thank you, Chairman. Alderman Schmidt,
Yes.
Alderman Lopez isn't here. Alderman Clemmons isn't here. Alderman Laws says yes. Alderman Tenza,
Yes.
we have 3 yeas.
All right. Moving on to the second communication, Mr. Clerk, I will again hand it over to you.
Communication from Tim Cummings, Economic Development Director, contract amendment for professional engineering services related to the Nashua Downtown Riverfront Implementation Project, Hayner Swanson Incorporated. Mr. Chairman, I move to accept, place on file, and approve the contract amendment with Hayner Swanson Incorporated for professional engineering services related to the Nashua Downtown Riverfront Implementation Project in the amount of $118,730 by roll call.
Okay, the motion is to accept, place on file by roll call. Director Cummings, anything in addition to add to this? Okay, he's indicated no. Members of the committee, any additional comments or questions for Director Cummings? Seeing none, the clerk is there. I would ask him to call the roll, please.
I am. Thank you. Alderman Schmidt.
Yes.
Alderman Laws says yes. Alderman Tenza.
Yes,
Chairman, we have 3 yeas.
great. All right, thank you very much. That's the end of our communications. We have no unfinished business, no new business resolutions, no new business ordinances. Nothing has been tabled in committee. I'll call for public comment one more time, although I'll note for the record that it doesn't appear that there are any other people in our Zoom chair committee room. Director Cummings, I'll ask, you wanted to bring up briefly with the committee regarding Main Street, the closing or the narrowing of Main Street, how that's going, and have a brief discussion on future years.
I did, Mr. Chairman, and thank you so much. I just wanted to start the conversation tonight. I think this will be an ongoing conversation for sure, but one that I thought would behoove us to begin now. But we are looking to possibly continue with the narrowing of Main Street beyond this outdoor dining season. Looking to do it maybe next year, and we're starting that conversation in earnest. We are requesting some additional funds to pilot some differing type of barriers that we would be using. We'll be going before Finance Committee, I believe actually this week, or if not this week, shortly. It is something that has been an internal conversation that the city administration has had for about 4, 5, 6 weeks now, as we've been trying to assess the situation and try to figure out how best we can take on this additional project. And we've had to balance other considerations. Currently right now the barriers are rented. They were deployed by a third party contracting firm. We've been assessing how we would do it internally if we were to do it again, what type of barrier we could use, how to store them. Public safety has been the overriding concern to make sure that they were safe. But then aesthetics as well. We heard loud and clear that, if we could improve upon the aesthetics, I think that would be well received. Ultimately, we were looking at it and time was of the essence. It needed to be functional. I think we satisfied that requirement, but obviously we do need to improve upon what we did if we're going to do it again. I wanted to start that conversation tonight. Ultimately, a piece of legislation is going to be necessary. We're going to have to file an amendment to the resolution that was approved, back in May. Essentially, what I'm envisioning is two sets of barriers being rolled out to be piloted for the next month or so, month and a half. One would be on Main Street of about 200 linear feet. That would be a different type of concrete barrier, but still a Jersey barrier. That's the Finance Committee approval request because that is over $25,000. Then we have an additional barrier that we're looking to put on one of the side streets. It's more of a water tank type structure. That's about $20,000. It's about 50 linear feet. We'll once we get those up and running and we have an opportunity to see how they perform, internally, the city engineer, Department of Public Works, Assistant Director of Public Works, the Director of Community Development, myself and the mayor have been meeting to discuss this. We will be seeking input from the public as to which direction we go, whether we should continue to do it in general. Part of the reason why we did this, though, is it seems to be very much what the community has expressed a sentiment towards. And so we thought we would start the planning process now. And I would love to just open it up for a roundtable type conversation with the Planning and Economic Development Committee of the Board of Aldermen, and then go from there.
Any thoughts, concerns, Alderman Schmidt?
Thank you. Can you give us some idea of the feedback you've gotten so far? How the restaurants themselves are feeling, and if you're getting anything from the amount of people that they're seeing, how much of a benefit is to them? Thank you.
I'm sorry, Alderwoman Schmidt, I missed the first part of what you said, but the general feedback's been very positive, both by the business operators and the general public. I can't quantify how much we've heard in terms of feedback. We've had almost unanimous positive feedback. We have heard concerns, certainly. Usually those concerns raised about things that we can address to tweak it to make it better, but no one in outright opposition per se. And I'm sorry, the first part of your question?
No, I was just looking for some idea of the feedback you're receiving. No matter what you do, some people will find it just totally wrong and unacceptable. But I think when I've been down there, I've seen happy people, I've seen more business, I've seen people being safe outside. And if we can continue this, I haven't seen a lot of problems with the road itself, with the road diet that we're using. Have you got any feedback on that as yet?
No, actually, it's been positive. I think we early on made some adjustments, and that was well received. I do think we may need to look at the timing of the lights a little bit as we continue. It's an evolving. Traffic is evolving, right? The flow of the movement is constantly needs to be monitored and watched. Depending on people's behaviors. Depending on what's going on. And so we're trying to do that. Overall, though, I think everyone likes it. The cars have slowed down. I've heard a lot of people comment about how much the cars have slowed down, how much they appreciate that. I've heard from some of the business owners say to me that, particularly one business owner, say to me that he owns multiple restaurants, and one of the restaurants that he has, this is the only restaurant that is turning a profit in all of his other locations. So I thought that was good. I have asked some of the operators to provide me some numbers. I have a suspicion that they are doing better this year than they did last year at this time. A year-over-year performance metric I'm looking to get from a couple of the operators. I know this conversation came up at the Downtown Improvement Committee last Friday. They are interested in seeing it continue. They commented about the real strong concern that they have about when these barriers go away on November 15th. just how much that's going to change the environment and the energy that they see and feel right now, and how when the barriers go away, it's going to be much quieter. It's going to have a potential feeling or tone that may be kind of depressed, and they're very concerned about that. So they're thinking even now, can we do something in terms of lights or anything to infuse the energy that people are feeling right now? Most of them are commenting on just how active they see the outdoor dining during lunchtime, and how they've never seen that type of performance during the day, and then it continuing on at nighttime. And so to see that just dissipate in mid-November, which we all understand the reasons why we need to do that, mainly snow removal. It's still going to set a tone that the Downtown Improvement Committee wants to recognize. So anyway, I hope that feedback is helpful.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, Alderman Laws?
So I want to echo what Director Cummings said. I mean, the feedback that I've heard anecdotally is that someone who works downtown, as in the service industry, people love it. The mix went from 70-30 people who loved it to people who are complaining about the traffic narrowing, to now it's just 100% positive, which is great. It seems like the sentiment is catching up with the reality. But Director Cummings, you just touched on my primary concern, which is more of an interest, which is like, where does DPW stand on this, and how is this going to affect snow removal?
Thank you. So DPW has worked with us hand in hand. This has been a cross-sector collaboration of departments in the city to be able to pull this off. Part of the reasons why the barriers that were chosen, that we're looking to pilot, was based off of internal discussions that the Department of Public Works brought to us, and said, these barriers are better than others. Let's look at this. Let's look at that. How about we do this? And so, we're very conscious of the operational concerns. I'm not saying today that we're going to have to take on that responsibility, but more often than not, we're probably going to have to drop the barriers, next season. Or we're going to have to be, understanding we're taking on that cost and outsource it to a third party, and making sure we can do it as efficiently as possible. Storing them as well. If we're going to own them now, we need to make sure that we can store them, how we store them. These are all the logistics type of conversations we're having with DPW, and of course, public safety has been a big driver of the conversation as well. So they're on board with everything that's been discussed this far. We've been working lockstep with.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Director Cummings.
Any other questions or comments for Director Cummings? President Wilshire?
Thank you. Thank you, Tim, for your work on this. This is so important to our city. An economically thriving downtown is really what we need. Couple this with the other things we're hoping to go in down there, we're going to see a really good resurgence of our downtown, people wanting to be there. It's great to drive down there, even at lunchtime, and see people sitting out. It's wonderful. So kudos. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Cummings, I just have a question for you. Is it have the there's only, I think, one side street that is blocked off, maybe two. One that really affects the restaurants down on East Pearl. Is there a possibility of expanding this to other areas, or is the kind of footprint from this summer the best that we're going to be able to do going forward?
Absolutely not. If there's an appetite to look at other side streets, we've constantly said we would be happy to do that. Some areas we just can't do. For instance, on East Pearl Street, the corner of East Pearl and Spring Street, that area, that intersection is just too tight to put barriers down beyond East Pearl, beyond the Spring Street, East Pearl Street intersection. The truck radiuses, trucks can't make it's the 18 wheelers that can't make the turns in that area too well. So putting outdoor dining in that area really doesn't work. Same thing on West Pearl Street with I believe it's Elm and West Pearl, same type of conversation. Can't really continue the barriers on West Pearl due to sight distance type issues. We are thinking about, as I said earlier, we're looking to put out barriers on Main Street, 200 linear feet of a different type of barrier. But what we're going to do is you take the barriers that are currently deployed now, and we're looking to put them along Factory Street. And the thought process would be is to maybe narrow Factory Street in a similar fashion. I say that because with the riverfront plan, actually, specifically, there's talk about, redoing that area, possibly adding parking, which would take away a travel lane. So if we could, do some tactical urbanism now to get people start to think in that way, where there's only 1 or 2 lanes of traffic instead of the 4, that would be a side street that we would be looking to put on a road diet. But there's certainly others, and we'd be welcome input from the community as well as the people who, the operators in that area specifically, if there's an interest. But to answer your question, pretty much part and parcel the whole of what you saw this year is what we'd be looking to do next year, not necessarily take on anything new.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or questions for Director Cummings?
So
Okay.
if I could, just 2 additional points I want to make sure I hit home. One, if we do this, I want to make sure folks know that this is, what I would call a semi-permanent type of solution. There is going to be a conversation at some point of, well, do we do this permanently? And, by doing this, you have a few years, 5, to decide. But ultimately, I want to make sure you'll be opening that conversation at some point. And, there's more than enough time to plan, but I want folks to be aware of that. The other thing I want to make sure folks are aware of is we're very fortunate to use Gopher funds. That was for this year. Come next year, this bigger, more expansive, I shouldn't say bigger and more expansive. That's inaccurate. This project that we did this year, to do it again next year in the similar fashion, we're going to have to use a different source of funds because Gopher wouldn't necessarily be available to us. And I just want to make sure folks understand that. But we can have those conversations as we further refine the plan if there's an interest.
Great, thank you very much. We will move along in our agenda then. Well, I guess we'll take public comment if there's anyone who would like to speak. Okay, hearing and seeing none. Remarks by Alderman? Anyone? No? Okay, we do not need a non-public session, so I will ask Alderman Schmidt for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Motion to adjourn by Alderman Schmidt. Unfortunately, we have to do a roll call on it. Alderman Laws, if you could call the roll, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Alderman Schmidt.
Yes.
Alderman Laws says yes. Alderman Tenza.
Yes.
Chairman, we have 3 yeas.
All right. Well, thank you all for showing up tonight.
Well
My
done.
pleasure.
Good
Nice
night.
library you have there.
Thank you.
Looks
night.
just like Tom's, like I
Yeah.
said.
Funny like that.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks. Good night.